Okay, so we were talking about the guidelines. The first guideline was that the symbols or units, the symbol for units not named after the scientist is written in lower letter. Like for meter, you will write small m, for second, small s, kg, kilogram, in such a way. Okay, this is what we have discussed yesterday. Now, symbol for units named after scientists written in capital letter. Okay, so you have to understand that the symbols for units named after scientists written in capital letter. Example, N for Newton, J for Joule, HZ for Hertz. So you come to know that
हाँ बोल रहा दिव्या क्या
okay, so symbols for units named after scientists is written in capital letters. Example, Newton. Newton is a symbol for force. Newton is a unit of force. So you will find that there we are writing capital N. The same way, Joule is a unit of energy. And there also we are writing capital J. HZ for Hertz. Okay, so you will find that the units which are named after scientists, whenever you are writing it, you have to write only the capital, whereas in capital form, whereas you are writing the units which is not named after scientists in lower letter. Then full name of a unit. Now understand this full name of a unit, whether it's a name of a scientist or not. If it is a full name of a unit, then whether it is named after a scientist or not, it should be all written in lowercase. Like if I want to write Newton, so I will write N in lowercase and not N capital. Why? Because capital N symbolizes that it is the person Newton. The same way Joule, I will write small Joule and not capital J, because if I write capital Joule, then it is a it is symbolizing the person Joule. Okay, so understand, whenever we are writing the full form, like you are writing meter, so you cannot write M capital. For seconds, you should not write S capital. Okay, so you will always write, if you want to write meter, and then you write METRE, second, SECOND, all in lowercase. Means whenever you are writing the full form of it, okay, then you will always write whether it's a name of a scientist or not. You have to ensure that you are writing all in lowercase in small letters. Don't write the first letter of the first character of it in capital. Like for Newton, don't write N capital. Or Joule, don't write J capital. Or Ampere, don't write A capital. Okay. For Hertz, don't write H capital. Okay, because these are, otherwise it will symbolize that we are talking about that person. Then a compound unit formed by multiplication of two or more units is written after putting a dot, a cross, or leave a space between the two symbols. Like if you want to write a unit which is formed due to two units, then what you will do, then you will write a dot or a cross, or you can leave the space. Like Newton meter is a unit. Okay, so you can write Newton meter like N dot M, or you can write N cross M, or you can write N and then space and then M. So you can do it either way. Either of the way you can use this concept. The same way, you cannot write the we cannot write two prefix together. Okay, like we write mega, we write kilo, exactly. So we write prefix mega, kilo, giga. These are our prefixes. So you cannot add two prefixes. Like you cannot say kilo mega. Okay, you cannot say kilo mega because kilo is also a prefix and mega is also a prefix. So while writing a unit, you cannot say that it is 2 kilo mega meters. No. Why? Because kilo is also a prefix and mega is also a prefix. So you cannot use two prefixes. What you have to do? You have to figure out that, okay, what is that number? And you can say 100 mega or 1000 mega, something like that. But you cannot add two prefixes when you are writing the units. Okay. So these are some of the guidelines for writing the units. Okay. So I'll stop it now. Now we will start with the new topic. What is actually chapter number 2. Okay, class. So I will put today along with this video, I will put the worksheets for this chapter as well. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. This is wrong. So let's start with our new chapter. Okay. The name of the chapter is Motion in One Dimension. Listen, class, what we have studied in the previous chapter, that was all very essential things required to understand the physics, required to understand physics. Okay. But now from chapter number 2 onwards, we are actually going to start with our concepts of physics. So we start with our first, that means our second chapter, and that is our motion in one dimension. So let's start with motion in one dimension. We have start our discussion with a concept of scalar and vector quantities. So let's start our discussion with scalar and vector quantities. I want all of you to make a note of all this. Beta? Scalar and vector quantities. So all the physical quantities are classified into two categories. All the physical quantities, whatever we can able to, whatever we can measure, these all are called as physical quantities, and they all like length, time, pressure, force, torque, speed, velocity, acceleration, momentum, and many more. All these physical quantities are classified into two categories. Which are they? So we call them as scalar quantities, or we simply call them scalars, or we call them as vector quantities, or we simply call them as vectors. So all the physical quantities are classified as scalar or vectors, or we simply call them scalars or vectors, or scalar quantities or vector quantities. Now we start our definition with what are scalar quantities. Okay. So these are the physical quantities which are completely expressed only by their magnitude. We need two parameters to express a scalar quantity completely. So these are our physical quantities which can be expressed completely by knowing their magnitude only. Okay. And what are the two parameters we require? We require the unit and we require the magnitude. Means unit in which the quantity is being measured, and the second, the numerical value of the measured quantity. So basically, what are scalar quantities? These are the quantities which can be expressed, which can be completely expressed by their magnitude only. Completely expressed means what? Means you can completely understand about that physical quantity by knowing its magnitude only. For example, if I say the distance between the two walls is 5 meters. Okay, what is the how much is the distance between the two walls? 5 meters. So when I say the distance between two walls is 5 meters, you all will understand everything about that. You don't need more explanation. You don't need some more factors to understand it. Why? Because if I say the mass of the object is 2 kg, or if I say the temperature is 100 degrees Celsius. So I think this is more than enough to understand that physical quantity. So these are the quantities which can be expressed only by, they can be completely expressed by their magnitude. So what are the two things? So like I said, 5 meters. So what is 5? 5 is the magnitude. And what is meter? Meter is the unit in which we represent it. The same way, 100 degrees Celsius. So what is 100? 100 is the magnitude of that. How big it is? 100. And then degree Celsius is a unit in which we are representing. I said mass is 5 kg. So 5 is what? The magnitude. Kg is what? The unit in which we represent. So what are scalar quantities? These are the physical quantities which can be completely expressed only by their magnitude. We need not, uh, it, we need two parameters. Which are they? We need a unit and we need a numerical value. Let's talk about the examples of scalar quantities. So mass, length, time, distance, volume, speed, temperature, work, power, energy, frequency, and so on. These all are the examples of scalar quantities. Scalar are the quantities which can be understood completely by knowing its magnitude only. One more thing you have to remember about scalar quantities, that the scalar quantities can be added or subtracted, multiplied and divided by the simple arithmetic methods. Means whatever the simple rules of algebra we have for addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, we use those rules for addition of and multiplication, division and subtraction of scalar quantities. Okay, like the angle is 180 degree, and then the teacher asks you to, so angle is what? Angle is a scalar quantity. So if the teacher asks you to minus 40 degree from it, so you can easily use the rules of algebra. Like I have 10 kg of an object and then I have distributed 2 kg from it. So how much mass is left with me? So 8 kg is left with me. How? I'm using a simple rules of maths, that is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division for on scalar quantities. Okay. So scalar quantities can be added or subtracted quite easily by the rules of algebra. Scalar quantities are symbolically written with its English letter. For example, time is represented by T, mass is represented by M, speed is represented by V, and so on. So we have seen so many symbols for that scalar quantity. For time, I write T. For mass, I write M. Now let's start our discussion with vectors. Now vectors is little tricky. Okay, vectors is little tricky. Scalars are simple to understand. Let's start our discussion with vectors. So what are vectors? So these are the physical quantities that require magnitude as well as direction to express them. Then and then only their meaning is complete. So vector quantities are these physical quantities, are those physical quantities that require magnitude as well as direction to express them completely. Means if I explain, if I give you a vector quantity, then just by knowing its magnitude, you will not able to understand it completely. Let me give you an example of this. Okay, because with the help of the example, you will able to know it very easily. Chalo, so let's talk about the example of a vector quantity. Let's take this example. So this is a box. Okay, this is a box. Okay. Now this box, on this box, on this very box, I applied a force. On this box, what I'm saying, I said on this box, I applied a force of 20 Newton. 20 Newton. My question is, in which direction will the box move? Your options are left, or let me say left, comma, right, up, down. Okay. In which direction will it move? I am applying a force on this box. How much force I am applying? 20. Now my question is, in which direction will the box move? Will it move upwards? Will it move down? Will it move left? Will it move right? Or will it move diagonally? Okay. Which is your answer? What is your answer? In which direction will? Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. Very good. Come on, all of you, give me your answers. I'm reading your answers. Very good, Krish. Very good, Aditya. Okay. Very good, Monish. Okay. Okay. Yes. Very good, Soham. Okay. Avli has also given one statement. Okay. Very good. I'm so happy. Very good, Avni. Okay. So now in which direction? If I give you only this information, okay, applied a force of in which direction will the box move? I'm sorry, and I'm very happy that no one has said left, right, up, and down in the answer. Okay, because the information given to you people is incomplete. Whatever the information I had given to you people, it's incomplete. Exactly. And some of you are talking about direction in your answers. Why? Because if I say a force of 20 Newton is applied, this force of 20 Newton is not enough to answer this question. This force of 20 Newton is not enough to answer this question because my force, understand class, my force is a vector quantity. This force, what I'm talking about now, this force is a vector quantity. And if you want to give the answer of this question, you need to know the direction of. If you don't know the direction of force, you cannot able to answer any questions related with it. So that's why force is a vector quantity. Now see, I am giving you the direction. So I said a force of 20 Newton is applied in this direction. The direction of the arrow is the direction of force. Now say me in which direction it will move. In which direction it will move? Very good. Very good. Now see, all of you are giving the right answer. In fact, you are telling it right side, and that's the right answer. See, now no one is giving any arbitrary answers. Earlier, all of you were giving me n different answers. Now all of you are giving the right answer, and the answer is also right. It will move towards right. Very good, Bachchan. Brilliant answer. Why? Why you all said it so clearly that now it will move in the right direction? Because to understand force, you not only need to know its magnitude, you need to know its direction as well. Okay, so what is force then? So force is a vector quantity, because to express force I required magnitude as well as direction. If I express its magnitude and direction, then we will understand this physical quantity. Clear? Okay, so let's start with what are the vector quantities required the following parameters. Now, which are the parameters required to understand vector quantities? So it requires three parameters. Which are they? First is the unit. The second is the numerical value of the quantity. We call this term as magnitude as well. So it requires unit, it requires a magnitude, that is numerical value, and it requires the third and the most important thing, it requires direction. Okay, so if you look at scalar quantities are the quantities which does not have direction associated with it, whereas vectors are the quantities which require direction, or it has direction. So we do have physical quantities which has direction. Okay, I just explain you with the help of an example. So which are the vector quantities? These are some of the vector quantities. Displacement is our vector quantity. Velocity is a vector quantity. Just now I given you the example of force, momentum, moment of force, weight, impulse. These these all are our vector quantities. So now in this chapter, we are going to talk about displacement. We are going to talk about velocity. We are going to talk about acceleration. And whenever I'm going to, yes, beta, Avni, wait a minute. I will give the answer. So whenever I will explain you about displacement, velocity. Obviously, in the next chapter, we are going to talk about force in that. Then we are going to talk about weight as well. We are going to talk about momentum. We are going to talk about impulse. You will come to know that whenever I'm going to explain these all quantities, I will always talk about the direction of that quantity. Okay. So displacement, velocity, force, momentum, moment of force, weight, impulse, and many more. These all are our examples of vector quantities. Now, Avni has asked me one question, one query. Sir, how weight is a vector quantity? So let me explain you how weight is a vector quantity. To understand the vector quantity, all of you, you need to understand what is the definition of that quantity. So if you want me to define weight, I say weight. If you ask me to define it, I will say it is a force with which, what is weight? It is a force with which the object is pulled towards the center of the earth. What is weight? So weight, if you try to define weight, weight is a force with which the object is pulled towards the center of the earth. This is the definition, beta, of weight. Now, if you don't know this definition, then I'm sorry, you will definitely ask me this question, that what is the, how weight is a vector quantity. Okay, so you find it something, do you find the direction? Okay, so what is weight? It is a force, beta, with which the object is pulled towards the center of the earth. Do you find direction here? Avni, do you find direction in this? If you don't find, I will explain it then. Okay, you find the direction? Chalo, thank you very much. Otherwise, but I think I should still explain it because some of you may not figure out the direction. Okay, so let's start with, assume this is the earth. What is this? This is earth. Okay, assume this is earth. Okay, now here on the earth, we are having one object. Okay, so this is that object which is there on the surface of the earth. This is the object. Now, how much is the weight of this object? So the weight of this object is 300 Newton. How much is the weight of this object? The weight of this object is 300 Newton. This red is the object. So how much is the weight of this object? It is 300 Newton. Now, 300 Newton. So what is 300? The magnitude. What is Newton? The unit. But what is the direction? So the direction of this is towards the center of the earth. So what is the direction of this weight? The direction is towards the center of the earth. This is the direction. If I have another object, and where is that object? The object is here on this side of the earth. Okay, now, and the weight of this object is 500 Newton. So what is the direction? The direction is towards the center. So all the objects, all the weight, we are being pulled towards the center of the earth. In fact, if you fall, when you collide with something, you fall. And whenever you fall towards the center of the earth. But obviously we don't reach to that place because there is the earth is there in between. So obviously we will not reach to the center of it, but our direction is always towards the center. Like if I am standing on a top of a building, listen, I am standing on a top of a building and I drop a stone from the top of the building. So technically the stone will fall down. But if you extend, it will fall down and it will hit the surface of the earth. Yes, it will hit the surface of the earth. But if you continue with that direction, where you will reach? You will reach the center of the earth. Because that force is actually being attracted towards the center of the earth. Clear? I hope all of you, it's very clear now what is the direction of the earth, what is the direction of the weight. It is towards the center of the earth. Clear, bachcha log, all of you? Yes. Chalo. So let's start with the numerical value of a vector quantity along with its unit, use the magnitude of the quantity. So the numerical value of a vector quantity along with its unit gives the magnitude. Okay. So now understand, I'm sorry for this very important line. I have made it wrong. Let me correct it. This is not. Okay. So understand the numerical value of a vector quantity along with its unit gives us the magnitude. Okay. So what is the magnitude? Like 20 Newton. So 20 is the magnitude and Newton is the unit. So this is the magnitude of a vector quantity. But understand that the vector quantity has a sign. Okay. So you will find vector quantities has a sign. It is positive, it may be negative. And most important, the negative sign of a vector quantity implies that the direction is opposite or it is in the reverse direction. Understand? The minus sign. This is a very important topic, beta. The minus sign of a vector quantity always indicate the opposite or the reverse direction. So if you find any vector quantity class and you find a minus sign in front of it, so you have to understand that yes, the direction is opposite, the direction is reverse. Okay, so the minus sign will always represent, the negative sign will always talk about direction. Don't worry if you are not understanding it right now. When we are going to talk about distance and displacement and velocity and acceleration, you will definitely come to know how the minus sign signifies, what exactly the minus sign signifies. Now understand the vector quantities follows different rules. Okay. Different rules of algebra for their addition, subtraction and multiplication. So as we find scalar quantities can be added, subtracted, multiplied by the normal rules of algebra. But for vector quantities, I have a different rule altogether, okay, which you will come to know in your 11th standard. Okay, in 11th standard, you are having a chapter called as vectors in physics. There we will learn how to add two vectors, how to subtract in that way. Okay. Soumya is asking, sir, is it that the opposite sign refers to the opposite side of direction of motion? See, now you're talking about direction of motion. Now, this direction of motion means you're talking about velocity. Okay. So that is okay, you can say, but it is not always about the direction of motion. Okay. It is not necessary always, it is the direction of motion, but the opposite side always refers to opposite direction. Okay, so we are talking about the rules for addition and subtraction and multiplication of vector quantities. So it has altogether a different set of rules which we'll study in your 11th standard. Now, how we denote it? So all the vector quantities are denoted by a symbol and an arrow on its head. Okay. So you will find that whenever you are using a vector quantity, it will have an arrow on its head. Clear class about vector quantities? Just type yes. Just type yes if you are clear with scalars and vectors. All of you, please. Okay. Chalo, so let's start. Thank you, Bachchan. Okay, very good. Now let's start with another term, and that is our rest and motion. Okay. Now I will just say you one thing, all of you, that I had uploaded some videos about rest and motion. Okay, if you recollect, I have uploaded some videos about rest and motion in our on our Google Classroom. On our Google Classroom, I have uploaded some videos of rest and motion. So I want all of you to go through those videos again. Okay, because now I'm going to talk about rest and motion in brief, not in detail. Okay, because already you have seen this. I had already uploaded these videos and I had given you some assignments as well. I remember. So all of you have quite aware about it. Okay, so this part of rest and motion, I will do it on a little. I will not discuss in detail. I will just discuss it in brief. Okay, so write down. A body is said to be at rest if it does not change its position with respect to the immediate surrounding. That is how we define rest. And how we define motion? So a body is said to be in motion if it changes its position with respect to the immediate surrounding. Okay. Now one dimensional motion means when a body moves along a straight path, its motion is said to be one dimensional motion. Means what, beta? Whenever the object is moving in a straight line, such type of motion is said to be one dimensional motion. Okay, like this is a road, a straight road, and this object is moving. So we can call such motion as one dimensional motion. Here the train or the car or any object which will move on this track will move in a straight line. It will not move sideways. There will be no sideways movement. So such type of motion is called as motion in one dimension, where the object moves in a straight line, no lateral, no sideways movement. Now look at this. Now this is an example of motion in two dimensions, because if you take a car which is moving on this track, so the car has to take a turn and there is a sideways movement on it. And if you want to study the motion of such type, then it is motion in two dimensions. And this is the example of motion in three dimensions. What happens in three dimensional, beta? You will find that the object not only taking turn, but in fact the object is also changing its plane. It's not only moving and taking the turn, but also its plane is being changed. The best example of motion in three dimension is the flying of a butterfly. Okay, when the butterfly flies, okay, you will find that it is not only changing its direction, but it's changing its plane as well. The same thing you will find in this case as well. You will find that, see, this is moving, it's turning, then the plane is being changed. It's moving down, it's moving up. So it's moving up and down as well as taking sideways motion. So this type of motion is called as motion in three dimensions. Okay, but in our syllabus, we are limiting our discussion to motion in one dimension. Now we'll start with our term, that is distance and displacement. Okay, let's start with distance and displacement. The first is our term which we called as distance. So what is distance now? Distance is nothing but it is the total length of path through which a body moves is called the distance traveled by it. The distance traveled by a body depends on the path followed by the body. So what is distance, beta? Distance is nothing but it is the total length of path through which a body moves. Okay, it's called as a distance traveled by it. The distance traveled by a body depends on the path followed by the body. For example, I said that I am moving from A to B. How I am moving? I am moving from A to B. So I traveled a distance of 10 meters and then I took the left turn and travel more 5 meters, and then I took the right turn and then travel more 20 meters. So 10 plus 5, 15, 15 plus 20, 35. So how much is the distance? So the distance is, yes beta, very true, Piyush. It is actual path traveled by a body. Okay. So the distance is 35 meters. Okay. The distance traveled by a body depends on the path because it is the actual path on which the object has traveled. So that is called as distance. Okay. Now, what about the distance? The distance is a scalar quantity. The distance is a scalar quantity. When I say distance, it has no direction with it. What is the symbol to represent distance? The symbol is capital S. And what will be the unit? Obviously, its unit will be meter because it is the length. And the CGS unit will be centimeter. So what is distance? Distance is nothing but it is the actual path on which the object has traveled. That is the distance. It is a scalar quantity represented by S and the unit is meter. Let's talk about another term, very important term, and that is displacement. Now, what is displacement? So displacement is nothing but the shortest distance from the initial to the final position of the body is the magnitude of displacement, and its direction is from the initial to the final position. So what is displacement? So displacement is nothing but it is the shortest distance from the initial to the final position. Okay, it is the shortest distance from the initial to the final position of a object. So if you want to find out displacement, it is nothing but it is the shortest distance from the initial to the final position. Okay, let's take an example of this. Assume this is the object. The object is at A and the object wants to reach to B. So the object is traveling on this path. This is the path on which the object is traveling. Okay. Then here the object took the turn and then it reaches here and then it's taking the turn. Okay. And ultimately the object reaches to the point B. Okay. Now assume this distance is somewhere around 30 meters. How much is this distance? 30 meters. So this is the distance because distance is nothing but the actual path on which the object has traveled. But what is displacement? So displacement is the shortest distance from the initial to the final position. So if I want to know the shortest distance from the initial to the final, I have to draw a straight line. What I have to do? So I have to draw a straight line from the initial to the final. And what is this? So this is my displacement. And you find the arrow there? Yes, because displacement is a vector quantity. Okay. So basically displacement is nothing but it is the shortest route from the initial to the final. And how we conclude, how we find out the shortest route? We find out the shortest route by drawing a straight line. Okay. So that is the magnitude of displacement. Now I said displacement is a vector quantity. So the question is, what is the direction of displacement? So the direction of displacement is from the initial to the final position. What is the direction of displacement? From the initial to the final position. So whenever we say whenever we say displacement, it means we know the direction as well. And what is the direction? The direction is from initial to the final position. Now the interesting thing is how we represent it. So we represent vector quantity with, we represent displacement with S and an arrow on its head. How we represent it? Because it's a vector quantity, so it is represented by S, capital S, with the arrow on its head. That is how we represent a vector quantity. What will be the unit of it? The unit will be meter. And what will be the CGS unit? The CGS unit will be centimeter. Class, are you getting what is distance and displacement? Let me quickly sum up. Distance is the actual path on which the object follows. It's the actual path followed by the object, whereas displacement is the shortest route from the initial to the final. Remember, it is not necessary for the object to follow a straight line path. It is not necessary. Okay. It is not necessary that the object has traveled through displacement. Yeah, the object has traveled through distance, but it has not necessary. It has traveled through displacement. Displacement is what we can find out by finding the shortest route from the initial to the final. And what is the direction of displacement? The direction is from initial to the final. Now we start with our examples. Please, all of you now I want all of you quickly finding the distance and displacement in this case. Now let me tell you what is the path this object has followed. So the object is moving from A. Okay, this boy is moving from A. He traveled 4 meters and reaches to the point B. Then at B, the boy took a 90-degree turn and traveled 3 meters and reaches to the point C. Clear? Now what I want all of you to find how much is the distance and how much is the displacement. Come on, find it and type your answer. Very good, very good. Brilliant students, Baba. Ekdam brilliant students. Very good. All of you are giving me the answer. Please write down very clearly in your answer whether you are talking about distance or whether you are talking about displacement. Because if you write the answer as 7 or something else, then I may not understand what you are talking about. Okay, are you talking about distance or are you talking about displacement? Very good, but most of you have given me the answer and it's a correct answer. So chalo, let me quickly show you how much is the distance and how much is the displacement. So we start our discussion with distance. Now, how much is the distance? So distance, if you see, distance is the actual path the object has followed. So the object has traveled from A to B, that is 4 meters. Then it has traveled from B to C, that is 3 meters. So how much is the distance? So the distance is the actual path, that is 4 plus 3, 7 meters. So how much is the distance? The distance is 7 meters. But now the interesting thing is how much is the displacement? So we said displacement is the shortest route from the initial to the final. What is my initial? A. What's my final? C. So I draw a shortest route. What I do? I draw a shortest route from initial to the final. So A is my initial. I draw a shortest route from A to C. And what is this? This is the displacement. The shortest route from A to C. So how much is the displacement? Let's find out how much is the displacement. So displacement you will find. Now if you look at this, it is 4, then 90-degree turn, then 3. So if you look at this figure, you will come to know that this figure is my right angle triangle. Isn't it? Isn't this figure a right angle triangle with a 4 meter and 3 meter are the sides of it, and AC is the hypotenuse because the angle is 90. So you know the I want to find out AC, the hypotenuse. We know I will find out the square, the sum of the squares of the remaining two sides. So 4 square is 16 and 3 square is 9. 4 square is 16 and 3 square is 9. So 16 plus 9, 25. And I will find the root of 25. That will be 5 meters. So how much will be the displacement? How much is this distance then? The shortest route from the initial to the final, that is 5 meters. But actually the object has traveled 7 meters to reach from A to C. Clear class? I hope you are getting it better. What is distance and what is displacement? The distance is the shortest route from initial, sorry, the displacement is the shortest route, whereas the distance is the actual path on which the object has traveled. So my distance is 7, my displacement is 5. All of you, any doubt, please ask. Yes, beta, Soumya, by using hypotenuse, beta. That is our hypotenuse. It is our hypotenuse. I am using Pythagoras theorem over there. Okay, Soumya. Sure. Let's start with the next case. Now find out distance and displacement quickly. Find out distance and displacement, beta. Very good. Very good. Brilliant. Sanika, very good. Very good. Brilliant answers. All of you are giving amazing answers. Brilliant. Piyush, how much is the displacement, beta? Just check twice. Okay, let me say you. The object started from A, it reaches to B, from B it reaches to C, from C it reaches to D, and from D it came back to A. Okay, so let's find out how much is the distance and how much is the displacement. Now, how much will be the distance? So you will find the distance will be, in this case, is the actual path the object has traveled. So my distance is the actual path the object has traveled. So it is 3 plus 5, 8. 8 plus 3, 11. 11 plus 5, 16 meters. So how much is the distance? 16 meters. Now let's talk about displacement. Now displacement is what we say is the shortest route from initial to final. Now the object started from A, and after taking the turn, it came back to A again. So what's my initial position? A. What's my final position? A. So what is the shortest route from A to A? It is 0 meters. So my displacement is 0. Clear class? How much is distance? 16. How much is displacement? 0. Okay. Why 0? Because the object came back to its initial position. So my distance is Vidula, can you say me why you are saying displacement as pi beta? The object started from A and the object came back to A. Na? That boy, he came back to A. Means what is the shortest route from A to A? 0. Clear? Clear? Now start with this one. This is little trick, yeah, but do it. Find the distance and displacement now. Wow, brilliant answer. Yes, distance is right. I want displacement. Very good. Sanika, very good. Soumya, distance is right, Soumya. Yes, Monish, very good, beta. Avni, very good, beta. What about distance, Avni? Yes, very good, Priyanka. Very good. Okay, chalo, let's start with how we get the distance and displacement. We start with distance. What is distance? The actual path. So distance will be 5 plus 4 plus 2 because the object started from A, it reaches to B, from B it reaches to C, and from C it came back to D. So how much is the distance? The actual path, which is 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 2. How much it comes out to be? 5 plus 4, 9, 9 plus 2, 11 meters. So how much is the distance? The distance comes out to be 11 meters. Now the tricky part is how much is the displacement. And displacement is the shortest route from the initial to the final. What is the initial position? A. What's the final position? D. So I draw the shortest route. This is my shortest route from initial to the final. And you can see the direction as well. Okay. So this is the shortest route from initial to the final. Now I want to find out how much is this distance. So we do little bit of manipulation here. We do some adjustments here. Now I know the distance between B to C is 4 meters. Okay. So obviously this, and I draw one more line parallel to it. And how much will be this distance now? Since BC and D and this point is same, means it's parallel. So this will also be 4 meters. Why? Because BC and this is same. They are just parallel to each other. So this is 4 meters. Now we find, if you check it little carefully, you will find from A to B, this distance is 5 meters. Okay. And from D to C, this distance is how much? This distance is 2 meters. So obviously when this distance is 2 meters, even this distance will be 2 meters. Yes. So this distance is my 2 meters. So this is 2 meters because this is 2 meters. This is 4 meters. Even this is 4 meters. Now, if this is 2 meters, how much will be this distance? How much will be this distance? So if you try to figure out, you use little bit of common sense, you will come to know that this distance is going to be 3 meters because A to B is 5. So this distance comes out to be 3 meters. Okay. So if you look at it, this is 3 meters, this is 4 meters, and I want the hypotenuse. Again, it's a right angle triangle with the sides are 4 and 3 meters respectively, and I want to find out the hypotenuse. I will again use the Pythagoras theorem, and we know 3 square plus 4 square is 25, and if you take the root of 25, you will find the answer comes out to be 5. So how much is the displacement? So you will find the displacement here is coming out to be 5 meters. Clear, class? All of you getting it? How we calculate distance and displacement? Now we will start with the next one more example of distance and displacement. Now this is a semicircle. Let's understand what is this. This is our semicircle. Okay, and how much is the radius of this semicircle? The radius of this semicircle is 7 meters. How much is the radius of this semicircle? 7 meters. And the object has traveled from A on this path. It traveled and it reaches to the B. So the object is traveling from A on the circular path and reaches to B. Now say me, how much is the distance and displacement? I'm getting some answers. Okay. Yash 25. I doubt Yash Karya. I doubt that. Monish, your answer is right. Krish, just write down what you are writing. Whatever the answer you are writing, na beta. Okay, I want to know what exactly is that. Okay, very good, very good. You write distance and displacement. Okay. Distance, Vidula, please check beta. Is it 7 meters distance? Vidula. Okay, sorry. Krish, just check it how it is coming 11 beta. Okay, no problem beta. Yes. Okay. Very good, Avni. Your answer is right. Krish, your displacement is beta. Krish, please do it properly. Nitya, very good. Very good, very good. Okay, Vidula. Please check it beta. Yeah. Chalo. I will show you now how much is distance and how much is displacement. Let's start with displacement because displacement is easy. See here, class, I'm talking about displacement. What is displacement? The shortest route from the initial to the final. What is the initial position? A. And the shortest route from A to B is this. Exactly. So if you look at it, if this comes out to be the shortest route from A to B, what actually is this? So you will find that this is nothing but this is the diameter of this circle. What is this? This is the diameter of this semicircle. And if the radius is 7, how much will be the diameter? So diameter will be doubled of the radius. Yes or no? So how much is my distance? So you will find that it will be doubled of the radius. So how much is my radius? 7. So 7 plus 7, my distance comes out to be, oh, I'm so sorry, my displacement. I'm so sorry. Because displacement is the shortest route. So my displacement comes out to be 14 meters, which I have drawn with the arrow. This is my displacement. Now we will talk about distance. Distance is tricky. Now the object is moving from A to B on that circular track. What is that circular track? That is nothing but that's my that's a semicircle. So that is the circumference of the circle. What is that AB? That's the circumference of a circle. But okay, so that's my let's I'm so sorry, I was little disturbed. Okay, now let's talk about distance. So distance is nothing but it is the circumference of the circle. But is it a complete circle? No, it's a semicircle. So what I will do, I will take half of the circumference of the circle. What I will do, I will take half of the circumference of the circle. Now, how much is what's the formula for circumference of a circle? You know the formula is 2 pi r. So 2 pi. What's the value of pi? So I will take 22 by 7 into r. How much is r? R is 7. Okay. But this 2 pi r, it has to be divided by 2. Why? Because it's not the complete circle. It's just a it's just semicircle. It's a part. It's half of the circle. Okay. So now you will find here. You will find this 2 and this 2 get cancelled. Okay. And this 7 and this 7 gets cancelled. So what I'm left with? So I'm just left with 22. So how much is the distance? So the distance comes out to be 22. Means the object is moving from A to B on this path. The distance is 22 meters, whereas the displacement is the shortest route from the initial to the final. So it comes out to be 7 meters. Clear? Now, let's do the last one. Quickly, we will wind up with the last one, all of you. Let's find out the distance and displacement in this case. Okay, now it's a circle. The object started its journey from A, made the complete circle and came back to A. And what is the radius of this circle? The radius of this circle is 7 meters. Chalo, quickly type and say me how much is the distance and displacement. Brilliant, very good, brilliant. Distance. Soumya, please check distance, beta. Is it 22? 22 was for semicircle. Very good. Ruchir, very good. Priyanka, very good. Monish, very good. Tanish, very good. Yeah, very good. Now, if we talk about displacement, displacement is quite simple here. Why? Because displacement is the shortest route from the initial to the final position. So if you find displacement, the object started from A and came back to A. So the starting and starting and the end point is same. Okay, so the object started from A and came back to A. So the starting and the ending point is the same. So my distance comes out to be, my displacement comes out to be 0. How much is the distance? The distance is the actual path. And what is this? This is nothing but that's the circumference of the circle, because it's a complete circle. So what's the formula? Now I'm not going to take half of it because it is not a semicircle. It's a complete circle. So it's 2 pi r. Pi is 22 by 7 into r. R is 7. Okay. So you will find that this 7 and 7 will get cancelled and 22 twos are 44. So how much is the distance? The distance comes out to be 44 meter. How much is the displacement? The displacement comes out to be 0. Clear? All of you getting it, beta? So this is how you can easily find out distance and displacement. Now, quickly copy this part. Okay, we are talking about the difference between distance and displacement. This is the last topic for the day, because tomorrow then we will start with velocity and other parameters. Okay, so what is distance? So distance is nothing but it is the length of the path traveled by the object, whereas displacement is the shortest distance from the initial to the final. Distance is a scalar quantity, whereas displacement is a vector quantity. Distance depends on the path followed by the object, whereas displacement does not depend on the path followed by the object. Distance will always be positive, whereas we have seen that the displacement can be negative depending upon the direction. But if you look at the distance, distance can never be zero. If the object is moving, your distance can never be zero, but your displacement can be zero if the object is moving. The previous example where you find that the object started from A, completed the circle and came back to A. So how much is the displacement? The displacement is zero, whereas the distance can never be zero. Wait a minute, Tanishq, I will come to your question, beta. Let me clear this part. Whereas what is distance? Distance. Now just understand the magnitude of distance and displacement. It can be more than or equal to the magnitude of this displacement. My distance can be more, or even it can be same to the magnitude of displacement. Why? It can be more. If the object is not following a straight line, you will always find the distance is more than displacement. But if the object is also traveling in a straight line, then you will find your distance and displacement will be equal. So understand, the distance can be more or equal to the displacement. But when we talk about displacement, you will find its magnitude can be less or equal to the distance. Okay, clear? So please copy this. Please copy this. By the time I will answer what Tanish, what you are saying, beta, you are saying, sir, in the previous sum, why did you multiply 2 pi r with 2 in the last? Beta, what is the formula for circumference of a circle? 2 pi r, na? So I said 2 pi, 22 by 7 into r, 7. So 22 by 7, that's 7, and r7 gets cancelled. So I am left with 22 twos are 44. And before that, if you find that was semicircle, na re beta. Tanish, the before slide, before the previous slide, you will find it was a semicircle. And since it was a semicircle, it was half of the circle. So my formula is 2 pi r divided by 2. Why I am dividing it by 2 there? Because it is not a complete circle. It's half of it. Na? So I have to divide the circumference of a circle by 2. So I have written 2 pi r divided by 2. Okay, that's why there the 2 get cancelled and the 7 also gets cancelled. Tanishq, I hope you are clear now. Please type. Tanishq. Okay, beta. Chalo. So clear now. When I take an example of circumference, I will take 2 pi r. But when I am talking about half of the circumference, then 2 pi r divided by 2 because it's semicircle. So I have to take half of the circumference. I hope rest all of you had copied it. Okay, so I'll stop sharing this now. Okay, so students, uh, today